Hello everyone, today I'm gonna talk about the Pedoscope, shoe-fitting X-ray viewer. In this presentation, we're gonna see relevant information about the Pedoscope, mathematical and principles applied to it, its function and legacy, and finally, references. Some details about the Pedoscope are its category. It's the radiomedicine. This studies the history of major imaging technologies that were used in medicine since the discovery of the X-ray in 1895, using objects such as the X-ray apparatus, scanners, and other objects related to the use of radioactive substances which help to project images and so deliver a therapy, or in this case, to provide a service. It was invented by Jacob G. Lowe and Clarence Carrier in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, United States. However, the main corporations which produced and distributed was the Pedoscope Company Limited in Hertfordshire, England in the late 1920s until 1960. And the other company was X-Ray Shoe Fitter Corporation in Milwaukee. They were more commonly used in European and North American shoe shops. Its objective was presenting a picture of the bones of the foot and an outline of the shoes in order to promise to the consumers to find a shoe that would fit perfectly despite if they presented flat feet or not. Although people doubted of its efficiency, they were commonly almost seen in every shoe store until the 1960s. Well, one of the first pedoscopes to be manufactured was in St. Albans, US via collaboration of scientists. However, it was Clarence Carrier who first patented the device. It was launched along with other similar artifacts such as the iron fluoroscope in Milwaukee. Actually, Milwaukee was the largest area in producing pedoscopes. Around 15,000 machines were made and sold mainly in the US. It was built of a cathode ray tube, aluminum filter, wood, radioactive substances, electronic components, cotton, asbestos, metal, and plastic, among others. The mathematical principles applied in the image reconstruction of the pedoscope are algebraic techniques in pattern recognition to build tomographic images. This was used to find densities as they were the unknowns of the problem. The equation posed the product of a factor of weight multiplied by the density of the painting. The weight values were determined considering the geometry of each case, such as the angle of radiation, size of grid, etc. We can see the graph of how it was analyzed. Then, they use image reconstruction algorithms. After using the device, sellers must estimate the time and form of irradiation that they should apply to the person depending on their age and physiological characteristics. Then they develop the filter reprojection algorithm. With this equation, mathematicals could determine the filtering and reprojection in order to determine the projection of the image, taking in consideration the angles of the X-ray. We here can see the equation used for that. And finally, they would calculate integrals to construct the image from filter projections. This was the last step, which consisted in summing the contributions of previous projections according to the intensity of each pixel, considering X and Y. But how does it work? Well, it was based on the fluoroscopy process using a fluorescent screen. So first, you look through one of the three viewing ports on the top of the cabinet. One was for the child being fitted, the other one was for the child parents, and the third one was for the shoe salesman or saleswoman. You would see a fluorescent image of the bumps of the feet and the outline of the shoes. For that, a tube was used. The only protection between the foot and the tube was a thin aluminum filter. A 50 kilowatt cathode ray tube was used. Some versions allowed to select between 3 different radiation powers: the highest for men, the medium setting for women, and the lowest for children. In addition, most had a button to regulate the radiation period, which ranged from 5 to 45 seconds. Then you could see the bones of your feet and finally choose a shoe that would best fit to your foot. About its legacy, it is no longer used because of 3 main safety concerns. The first one was that studies showed that exposing skin regularly to radiation could cause harm, and so started regulating the tolerance of dose. Later, other regulations established that these artifacts could not be operated by salesmen or saleswomen, but only by licensed therapists. And the third one was that even though there were no injuries reported by the clients, there were by the salesmen or saleswomen, since they were in constant contact with the radiation. It caused them dermatitis on the hands, radiation burns, and so on, that could later on could end in amputations. Nowadays, we use this ruler to measure footwear. This functions the way of: you put your feet on the ruler while having it against a wall. According to the length of the foot, you could determine the size of the shoe that would best fit your foot. Thank you so much for your attention.